Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
I'm Ted.
Today we have a GM 911 for you. How to help this dungeon master handhold his players.
If you have a GM 911 and you'd like our help, you can send that over to nerdarchy@gmail.com. Just put GM 911 in the subject, or you can head over to our forums and go to the GM 911 section there.
So we get another GM 911 from Jacob, and basically what he's asking is he has some ideas to help his players kind of like get acclimated to role-playing games and playing Dungeons and Dragons. Which his methodology is a little heavy-handed, I would think. His idea is to either have them prisoners or indentured servants, or working for a mercenary company isn't so bad of all the options. And he also mentions about having the person that they would be under, might have to throw his weight around in the beginning a little bit to show him who's in charge.
He would kind of be like your guild master, so to speak.
Well, he used guildmaster, but he also said about making him so that he's got to kind of like push them around a little bit, make sure they know who's in charge, and also like the missions that he's assigning. The idea is they're working off a debt.
Right. So the idea of whether they're indentured servants, slaves, or mercenaries for hire, you've got this central point of contact, and essentially the untrusted nature of these new PCs. So they're going to be new players, so they're not going to know what kind of boundaries are they able to push and in what ways. So I think that adds some interesting elements to it.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing. Like we've all gone down that road where we've kind of been a little bit heavy-handed, or laid the tracks on the Railroad Express.
Absolutely.
What have you. I think Jacob is a little misguided in the direction he's going by taking away their choices. One is you have to ask, you have to wonder if he did a session 0. I would guess no, and talk to his players to find out what it is they really want to do.
Right.
I mean, the best way to really connect your players is kind of like talk to them and try and get them to connect themselves.
Right. And we've talked about all the advantages of session 0 in that video. I look at this concept, while yes, there might be some heavy-handed elements to it, I think there's a lot of positive points that can be done with this concept if everyone is on board.
Sure, but the biggest problem to me is like it's one thing to start off with the prison break adventure, right? That's cool, that's okay. But he's like, the way he's got it set up, that's never going to end, or like not anytime soon anyway.
Right.
They're still trapped, and he's trying to control them.
Yes, he's got that character who he's not trying to be a DM PC or anything like that, but he wants that person to be the quest giver. And I think when you're used to playing video games or the MMOs, it's very used to having the ability to have that one person that this is the guy I go to get my quests. So each night you can have that circular system. I go out, I do this thing, I come back, next session I do the same thing. It's formulaic. Some people are used to that kind of thing, and to bring in some new players, that might be what they're used to in their background, so that might be a commonality that he can work from.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Like, this is a tabletop role-playing game. It's not a video game. It's not an MMO. Like, the whole idea is for them to have freedom of choice and be able to do what they want to do. And basically, you want your players to be free reign, free roaming.
I absolutely agree, and there's times that freedom of choice totally gets thrown in your face.
Of course, that's what the game's all about.
But without knowing the players' backgrounds, it's hard to see exactly, or it's hard for us to know what it is they're coming from. And I think if Jacob has the foresight to have seen, okay, this is what they're used to, if I start off their preliminary quests with this type of setup, it can then move away from that type of thing when they've paid off their debt, or when they decide to kill them and take over, or whatever have you. Again, with freedom of choice, they can do whatever they want. So I think it's a good place to start. If he's new as a DM, they're new as players, so getting familiar ground is going to get them someplace to start.
Well, I kind of feel like though by confining them right from the get go, like you're gonna, especially if they're new players, you're kind of training them how to play the game, right? And you're saying like you're kind of taking away those choices and those options, and that's what you're teaching them. Instead of sitting down with the party and finding out what kind of game they really want to play, of the options he threw out there, the Mercenary Guild is actually the best of them, where they could all actually have a commonality and a background of, they've all been part of this mercenary company, whether they've, worked together or not. Maybe they're at the very minimum, they're acquaintances. There's going to be an organization structure of leadership that they're going to be used to following. Which could do that same thing. Hey, I got another job for you.
Right.
Maybe they go out on their own at some point. Maybe they form a rival mercenary group. Maybe they don't want to be mercenaries at all. Maybe they take up with somebody and that's it. There's a lot of possibilities. But I think of the options that he put out there, I find that that's the best one, especially if his concern is not frustrating his players with being new to a role playing game.
Right.
You don't. There's other ways of doing it. Instead of using one NPC, you could use a bunch. And the benefit to doing that is if they hate your one NPC, they might latch on to some of the other ones. And, from my own experience, so often the players will latch on to NPCs that you never thought, were important.
That's true.
Even in your game, you say you can't even remember the NPC that my son keeps talking about and asking you about. Yet that was the one that he happened to latch on to because he liked the voice or whatever.
It happens all the time.
So it could just be some little quirk thing you come up during the gameplay that engages your players. And as those things happen, if you want to get them into role playing and playing a tabletop game, engage them with those things that they're kind of like raising their hand and they say they like.
Right.
Even if you don't have anything planned around it, if you can shift gears, you're going to make a better session for them. All around your game will benefit from it. And even when you have to shift gears and say you've prepared material, you can always backburner that stuff and use it later, or kind of like work your way around back to it.
Right.
The whole illusion of choice. Absolutely. So Jacob, that are my suggestions, and I'm not trying to poo-poo on your ideas and what you came up with. This is just my opinion of how I would handle it, and and I just don't like I don't like forcing them down a certain road. I don't like starting them off without their gear or in a negative way, especially like if this is their first exposure to tabletop role playing.
You want it to shine.
Yeah, you want to find out what they're really into and really spotlight those moments and try and make those happen in the game. Like you might want to ask them like, what is the aha moment? What is the ultimate goal that you would love to see happen in this game? What experience are you looking for as a player? So those are the kind of questions that'll help get the juices flowing and help you gear your campaign towards your players.
Absolutely. So what do you guys think? Do you have any suggestions out there for Jacob? Did we hit the nail on the head? We're missing some things. Put your comments down below while you're at it. Like, share, even subscribe.
You can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.